Scene 1 of Lesbian Mentor opens on a quiet but emotionally charged moment between therapist Mona and her patient Sarah. The scene revolves around immersion therapy, where Mona gently guides Sarah into a pool to help her confront her intense fear of water. This fear is rooted in a near-drowning incident Sarah experienced at 12, which left a lingering trauma. Mona's approach is slow, steady, and deeply supportive. She instructs Sarah to begin by dipping in just the baby toe, and then gradually progress to the foot to splashing with her hands, and eventually taking full steps into the water. Throughout the process, Mona maintains steady eye contact, soothing Sarah with affirmations like, "You're safe, I'm here, and just look at me, don't look at the water." This repetition serves both as a therapeutic tool and as an emotional anchor, symbolizing trust and connection. By the end of the exercise, Sarah has achieved something she could not do on the first day, actually entering the water and beginning to engage with it, marking a significant breakthrough in her therapy. Afterward, on the pool's edge, Sarah downplays her progress, calling her fear stupid, but Mona gently reframes it as a valid trauma response. This sets the tone for their relationship. Mona is not just a therapist, but a mentor and role model, guiding Sarah not only through her phobia but also towards self-compassion. The scene then deepens when Mona reveals her own history. She too nearly drowned, trapped under a mast in a sailing accident at 15. It took her years of therapy before she could return to the water. By sharing this, Mona humanizes herself and collapses the hierarchy between therapist and patient. She embodies the possibility of healing and reinvention, which inspires Sarah. This moment also reflects a dynamic familiar to many in the LGBTQ community, particularly queer women, where mentorship and identification often overlap. Because lesbians and bisexual women have historically lacked mainstream representation and role models, they frequently find mirrors of themselves in personal relationships. Mona, as the title hints, may be more than just a therapist. She represents a form of guidance that could extend into Sarah's identity journey as well. The hesitant, fragmented way Mona speaks at the end, "Sweetie, I shouldn't do this. I want to help you. Yes, no, I just admire you so much. I see a lot of myself in you," signals a boundary she's conscious of crossing. It's ambiguous but powerful, suggesting admiration, perhaps even attraction, but couched in the language of professional care. This ambiguity resonates with many lesbians' experiences of closeness and mentorship, where emotional intensity can blur lines, not necessarily in a sexual way, but as a reflection of how profound and rare it is to be truly understood. From an LGBTQ cultural perspective, the scene captures a common narrative: a younger or less experienced woman learning from an older, more confident one, often in an environment of secrecy or intimacy. This trope, teacher and student, coach and trainee, therapist and patient, repeats across queer history because it mirrors real life. When public visibility was scarce, many queer women found themselves drawn to mentors, professors, or older friends who modeled authenticity. These relationships could be lifelines, but they could also be complicated, because admiration, gratitude, and attraction sometimes coexist. Lesbian Mentor nods to this dynamic while keeping it SFW, focusing on trust, healing, and self-discovery rather than overt sexuality. This makes the story relatable to a broader audience and emphasizes that the heart of the connection is about care and empowerment, not exploitation. Women in general can relate to the scene because it portrays something universal, the process of overcoming fear with someone else's help. The way Mona steadies Sarah in the water is analogous to how women often support each other through trauma: friends, sisters, mentors, mothers. This theme of female solidarity runs through feminist and queer cultures alike. It's about building spaces where vulnerability is allowed, where someone says "I'm here" and means it. For LGBTQ audiences, that solidarity also carries the weight of shared marginalization. When you face discrimination or invisibility, finding another woman who understands can feel transformative. That's why Mona's disclosure about her own trauma matters. It's an act of solidarity, showing Sarah she's not alone in her fear. The question, "Why does society hate seeing two girls in love?" speaks to the tension this scene sets up. Even though nothing overtly romantic happens, the intimacy between Mona and Sarah could make some viewers uncomfortable. Female-female closeness threatens patriarchal norms by existing outside of male control or consumption. Historically, women's friendships have been dismissed as trivial or, when they appear too intense, pathologized or sexualized. Lesbian relationships in particular have been alternately erased or fetishized, either treated as invisible or portrayed as spectacles for male pleasure rather than authentic love stories. What Lesbian Mentor does in this opening scene is normalize a deep, nurturing intimacy between two women, showing that it can be healing rather than scandalous. This is a quiet but radical act, because it resists the idea that any closeness between women must be either just friendship or lurid sexuality. It acknowledges that female intimacy, especially in mentorship, can be transformative without being reduced to a trope. Another way this scene resonates with LGBTQ culture is through its use of water as a metaphor. Water often symbolizes emotion, the unconscious, or rebirth. Sarah's gradual immersion parallels the process of coming out or embracing one's authentic self. At first, you test the waters with a toe, then a foot, then you wade in deeper as someone you trust guides you. The therapist's insistence on eye contact and deep breathing mirrors the affirmations queer people often give each other. You're safe. You're not alone. You can do this. Mona, who has already crossed these waters, becomes a guide for Sarah's metaphorical baptism into self-acceptance. This reading connects the therapeutic narrative to the film's title. Mona is a lesbian mentor not only in the literal sense, but also as a symbolic figure who helps Sarah enter a new phase of her identity. The question of whether women should leave their men for their girl best friends is provocative, but also points to a deeper truth about authenticity. Many queer women discover later in life that their deepest emotional bonds have been with women, sometimes, while they are still in heterosexual relationships. This isn't about betrayal, but about awakening. An lesbian mentor doesn't depict such a choice yet in this scene, but it plants the seed by showing how powerful women's connections can be. The takeaway isn't that women should leave men, but that they should have the freedom to honor their true selves and the relationships that sustain them. This freedom is precisely what society resists because it undermines heteronormative structures that center men in women's lives. This opening scene also models healthy boundaries, even as it hints at their potential to blur. Mona's hesitance at the end, "I shouldn't do this," shows self-awareness. She shares her story to inspire Sarah, but she also knows the risks of over-identification. This is an important aspect of queer mentorship, caring deeply without crossing ethical lines. By portraying this complexity, the film invites viewers to think about how mentorship, especially in marginalized communities, can be both life-saving and fraught. It's a nuanced representation that goes beyond stereotypes of predatory mentors or naive protégés. The scene's repetitive, almost hypnotic dialogue also mimics the rhythm of therapy and the rhythm of trust-building in queer spaces. It's not flashy, it's gentle, incremental, and full of reassurance. This reflects how many LGBTQ people experience community, not as a single dramatic revelation, but as a slow accumulation of small, safe steps with someone saying, "I'm here along the way." For women who have been socialized to suppress their fears or desires, this kind of gentle immersion can be revolutionary. Finally, the moment when Sarah says Mona makes her feel good and admires her so much can be read as a flicker of self-recognition. Often in queer narratives, a younger woman admires an older one, not just for who she is, but for what she represents, a possible future self, confident and unafraid. Mona sees herself in Sarah, and Sarah, in turn, sees a model of resilience in Mona. This mutual recognition is the heartbeat of queer mentorship. It's not about seduction, but about reflection, seeing in another person the parts of yourself you've been too afraid to acknowledge. In sum, Scene 1 of On a Lesbian Mentor is about far more than overcoming a phobia. It's about trust, vulnerability, and the beginnings of a transformative bond between two women. For lesbians and bisexual women, it mirrors real experiences of finding mentors or role models who help them navigate fear, whether fear of water, of trauma, or of their own identities. For women generally, it highlights the power of female solidarity and care. It challenges societal discomfort with women loving or mentoring each other outside of heteronormative frameworks. And it reframes the provocative question of leaving men for women as a question of living authentically rather than conforming. Through the metaphor of immersion therapy, the film dramatizes the slow, courageous process of stepping into one's truth with the guidance of someone who's already crossed the waters. This makes the scene a rich and resonant opening to a story about mentorship, healing, and the radical potential of women supporting women.